Our speaker today is one of our own Rotary members, Brad Hutter, who is owner and CEO of MIG Commercial Real Estate. He has founded several startup companies in finance, construction, tech, and gaming, and he was the co-creator and co-founder of Bonfire American Grill with fellow Rotarian Sean Baxter. Outside of work, Brad has had some unique experiences while scuba diving with large sharks. He's been in the water without a cage, hands-on with over 30 species of sharks to date. His daughter Grace, who will be a senior at Middleton High School this year, has been along on some of the dives, and she's here today as well. Where is Grace?
Stand up, Gracie.
There she is. So we look forward to your presentation, Brad, and we've made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way to say thanks for speaking to us today. Brad and Grace will be here after we adjourn today for anyone who wants to come up and ask any questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with everyone today. So a little exercise first. Can everyone put their hands just like this on their forehead? When you are underwater, Rob Stroud, that is a sign for what? Shark! Because you can't talk underwater, right? So if you see somebody going like this, they're not doing the tomahawk chop. They are telling you there's a shark around. Okay. So we're just going to jump right into this. First, though, I do want to check. I want to get a count. How many young adults under the age of 18 decided not to get a little stuffed animal, like, between like 11, 12, and 18? How many? Few? Okay, I want you to come up. I have something for you as well. So if you're between those younger ages and 18, come up after. I've got something for you as well. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget that. Okay? So hopefully this works, technology. Okay, so everyone wants to know, how did I get involved in something like this? Well, it's like most I think, unique experiences in life. They're unplanned. So I was going through a difficult time in my life, and I decided to go spend some more time with doing things that I loved and find my own happiness, and that was scuba diving, which I'd done most of my life. And I was down in the Bahamas at a place called Stewart Coves near Nassau, and was found out through a number of different friends I had that there was a film group going out the next day, and they were short one diver. Would I come along and be an additional safety diver? I said absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. I had my equipment with me, and I showed up, and they started putting these $70,000 and $80,000 cameras on the boat, and I realized they were with Discovery Channel. And I was very excited to find out that I was going to be diving with Discovery Channel until I saw the big, large crates, thermoses filled with what looked like blood that they were also loading onto the boat. And I realized what kind of trip I may have gotten myself into. So in the prior 20 years, I had seen sharks diving, but generally far away, and got really excited and, shark, 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 and tried to tell everyone in the group before they swam off and disappeared, because in general, as I've come to realize, sharks are typically shy and try to avoid humans. It is not what I hope this presentation is going to change your attitude somewhat about sharks and what they're really like in the wild. The main theme is that sharks are willing to share the oceans. It is their oceans. They've been here for a long, long time. They're willing to share with us. They don't necessarily see us as food at all. They're very inquisitive. Most attacks, and there are few in relation, I'll show you in a minute, are just mistaken identity. If you're floating on a pad on the top of the water with your arms out like this, from below, with the sun behind you, you look like a seal or a turtle. And those are things that sharks like to eat. So most of the time, whether it's that or they're just chasing food and a human gets in the way in shallow water, that accounts for almost every shark attack in the world. We'll talk about the statistics in just a bit, and then we'll get to the fun stuff, okay? So this is me right here with one of our dear friends, Gracie. Gracie loves her as well. She's a good friend of Grace. Her name is Emma. We name most of the sharks we dive with all over the world. If they are regulars and come back to a specific spot, we learn how to identify them through their markings and so forth. Emma's pretty easy to identify because she's the biggest tiger shark at Tiger Beach, and one of the biggest tiger sharks you might ever see. She's a big girl, and we expect her, she's probably over 40 years old, hopefully well on her way to a long and healthy life. I'm the accidental shark diver because as I got on this discovery tour at Seward Coves, I got out and I tried to pretend that I was a shark diver and knew what I was doing. Of course, after one time in the water, they all realized that I had no idea what I was doing. But the other divers were very kind and showed me the ropes. And I want to show you the ropes really quickly because it doesn't take very long to learn this. When you are in the water with a shark, you do not run away. If you run away, if you swim away, if you splash away, you look like what? Food, prey. I have a friend that has a t-shirt, act like prey, be prey. That kind of applies to anything in life. So, don't back up, don't run away. Even if you back up slightly, they sense that you're moving backwards. So if anything, you lean forward just a bit. We'll talk about how sharks sense you in the water. Even a half an inch, even a quarter of an inch leaning towards them, they will sense that from even 30, 40 feet away, certainly as they get closer. So if you lean forward, they know that you're not running away, and they immediately think, why is this thing not running away from me? Because everything swims away from a shark, right? You put your hands up. For whatever reason, makes you look bigger or something. Some people actually carry PVC pipes and hold them out, but getting something out in front of you like this stationary is also a sign to a shark that you can come by and check me out, but do not think I'm food. Very importantly, you always look them in the eye. You stare them in the eye. Now, you think maybe they aren't looking at you, but they are. And that's one of the weird, kind of cool things about the diving I do, is that the sharks always look at you right in the eye. When they're swimming around, you can actually see their eyes turning, and no matter where they are in the water, they are always locked onto you, and they're looking at you in the eye, which is also pretty weird, because how do they know to look you in the eye? But they do. The moment that you turn your head or avert your gaze, even if you just do it with your eyes, they know it, and they sense that as a vulnerability, and that gets them interested, and they will turn towards you. So, in the water, don't back up, hands up, look them in the eye, don't lose eye contact, right? And head on a swivel. Now, the eye contact and the head on a swivel thing is tough. Sometimes you have to break contact, but to get right back on if you've got one that's swimming towards you. But as hopefully you get interested more in the ocean and get underwater, snorkeling, or get PADI certified for scuba, which is not that difficult if you enjoy the water, I'd highly encourage you to start doing more of what's becoming a real thing out there around the world, which is tourist-based ability to go out with divers and visit sharks. I've started to do more of it with my family. It's a great opportunity to go out and interact with some of the largest apex predators in the world in a very safe way. Compare this to going out to the savannah with a lion. You can't walk out into the pride of lions and hang out with them, right? You can't jump into the water with a hippo. They will definitely eat you or kill you. Rhinoceros, elephants, you name it. You cannot go right into that pack or herd and pretend like you're one of the crew. However, with sharks, as you'll see in these pictures, you can, and they accept you if you follow those rules. Hands up, eyes, head in a swivel. And the hands are up because you don't want to let them get into your body. If they get into your body, if they even let them bump your body, they might want to just think, I want to see what this thing is. And since they don't have hands, what do they use? That was for the kids. Okay. There's Stuart Coves. This is me with another tiger shark. The credit on the bottom, Eli Martinez, is probably the greatest tiger shark diver, and maybe shark diver in the world at this time. He's known as the Shark Whisperer. His female counterpart is Ocean Ramsey out in Hawaii. She is also a fantastic diver. She was the one you might have seen pictures of recently who just swam with Deep Blue, the largest great white ever recorded. We've got some pictures at the end of her too. Ocean has dedicated her life to maritime and undersea life conservation. So has Eli, and he's a great friend, and we love him. We love him to death, and he has helped expand my ability to see a lot of different types of sharks over the years. So what's a shark? I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to tell you in general that sharks are amazing. Right, kids? They are amazing. Now, Rob Stroud corrected me. There's not 380 or so species. There's over 500 species now, and they're still counting. Most sharks are smaller than this. More than half of the sharks are teeny, like this. Like, they look like, well, it's a class of fish called dogfish. But most sharks are not the big things. They're little, and they're just like the other fish. They see you coming, they're like, oh, and they scurry away, okay? Of course, we are interested in the big ones. And sharks have been around for over 400 million years. They've been around since before the dinosaurs. So sharks definitely, they own the ocean. This is like from the beginning of time, and that's the evolution of a shark through the megalodon right there at the bottom right, one of the largest fish ever be in the ocean. There you've got in the little white, below that is a current day great white size, believe it or not. And below that, a T-Rex, to give you a sense of how big those sharks used to be. Pretty big fish. They are apex predators. They are incredibly important to the entire environment, the sea life, and the entire chain of how things happen. If sharks are not around, certain populations of fish and other things explode, they overpopulate, and ultimately die off. So killing sharks off doesn't make more like feeder fish or tuna. It actually makes less. We found that because in some areas around the world, fishermen have gone out and killed sharks and killed all the sharks in their area for their jaws, for their teeth, and sold them as trinkets and so forth. And when the sharks were gone, what happened to the fishermen's fish, kids? No more fish either, right? Because all the other animals, they overpopulated, there are too many of something, and there wasn't enough food for them, and they died off. So it's a very, very important, this balance that sharks play in the whole marine environment and ecosystem. They play a very, very important role. Sharks, like I said, have been around for a long, long time. Reptiles, sharks are not reptiles. Sharks are fish. Reptiles, like the dinosaurs, also had swimming reptiles. Those were like ichthyosaurs and others. 250 million years ago. They were long after sharks were around. And mammals swimming in the ocean only 50 million years ago. So we're very, very newcomers to the ocean, but all evolving at the same time. Hopefully the top one won't be de-evolving or extinct, and we'll talk about that soon. This is for the lawyers in the room. This is the evolution of the shark. From nastiest big toothiest to shark Neanderthalis to lawyer. Hey, part of the crew, you know. Gotta pick on yourself too.
Very funny.
I figured if I've been in court with some of you guys, I could probably swim with a great white shark, no problem. Fun facts about sharks. Kids, sharks can have over 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. 30,000. Rob Stroud already corrected me in number 2, as usual. Thanks, Rob. Sharks can rotate their eyes backwards when they're eating to protect their eyes. Some of them, instead of rotating backwards, they have a protective film that flips over their eyes. So if you ever see pictures of sharks and like their eyes get white, or you see them turn totally black, that's them protecting their eyes while they eat. It's something that evolved over hundreds of millions of years. Interesting thing about sharks' eyes, they're not black like most people think. They're some of the most beautiful eyes in the ocean. Great white sharks have beautiful blue eyes. You have to be incredibly close to see them. And sometimes when I have seen them, I wish I hadn't seen them, but they are beautiful royal blue, ringing around that large black pupil. Tiger sharks, for example, have beautiful dark brown chocolate eyes. So other different sharks have kind of cat eyes. They go all over the board, but they are absolutely beautiful. So when you hear things like those dark black eyes, no, that's not true. That is just a myth. They don't have scales. They have little teeth that are actually embedded. They're little tiny miniature teeth that are embedded in their skin, and that's what makes their skin so tough. They cannot stop, very quickly anyway, and they cannot swim backwards. And that's important when you're shark diving because the shark will never back up from you. You can only direct them. If they're coming at you, they can't turn around. They are gonna keep coming, and you just need to use your hands because your hands are out, remember. Get that on the shark, away from the dangerous part, and just steer them away, and they generally, and you'll see some of the film, just go on their way away from you. If you try to stop them, that's something they're not used to doing. That's a bad thing. So you don't ever want to try to stop a shark. You want them to keep moving along. I talked about the apex predators. Let's talk a little bit about how they locate prey in the ocean. Sharks have every possible type of like military technology to figure out that you're in the water with them, okay? So any pressure changes in the water, as you move through the water and you're moving the water, they can sense that from hundreds of yards and even miles away in some cases. Smell, definitely many miles away. They can smell things in the water, like good, like blood. And like hurt fish sometimes have blood, right? And that's what they feed on, right? They can also sense electrical signals, magnetic fields, and temperature changes in their ampullae of Lorenzini, which is they look like blackheads all over the fish, all over the shark's like face and snout. Those little black dots are actually highly sensitized sensory organs, which can detect things from some people say as many as 25 miles away in the ocean. Absolutely incredible. They have evolved. They are fantastic, amazing animals. Here's some sharks, kids. Do you recognize any of them? What's the biggest one? Oh, the biggest one is the whale shark. The biggest bitey one is the great white. So the one in the middle with the spots on it, that is a whale shark, and it doesn't eat fish or anything, it eats what? Plankton. Lots and lots of plankton to get that big. So I would have to be eating about 400 pounds of plankton a minute in order to get that big, and I'd probably blow up before then, but that's beside the story. Great white shark above the whale shark there, right? And there's some other really big sharks that are not as well known, like the basking shark and so forth. They're big sharks, and they usually live in really cold waters, like by Iceland and Greenland and the North Sea. They live very deep, and they can live as long as, how many years, kids? How old do you think a shark can get? Huh?
Million.
It's not 1 million, and it's not 46, but it is over 1,000 years old. Over 1,000 years old. Some of the cold water, deep water, cold water sharks can live over 1,000 years. Just think about that. There's a shark swimming out there that literally was around long before, whatever, longer than me for sure, but think about how old our country is, and they have been around for, like, we're going back to like Louis the 14th times we're talking, so they've been around a long time. They are pretty amazing. How many people are killed by sharks every year? Nope. Average is only 10 people per year. Now let's look at other animals. Those darn mosquitoes, they kill 725,000 people a year. Snakes kill 50,000. Dogs kill 25,000, right? Assassin bug, I don't know what the heck that is, but I don't want to see one. It's like, that sounds bad. Snails, I'm not eating no more snails, no more escargot. Crocodiles kill 1,000 people a year. Hippopotamus, 500 people a year. Lions, 100. Elephants, 100. Wolves and sharks kill on average 10 people a year. And, like I said, of those 10 people, that's with tens, if not hundreds of millions of beach visits a year. Think about that. Think about all the people around the world that go swimming in the ocean every day, 365 days a year, and are splashing around out there, right? Literally tens of millions of people in the water at any given time. And how many are getting eaten? Basically none. That should drive home the fact they're not looking for us as food. Because if they were, believe me, they're there. If you have swum in the ocean, you probably swam near a shark. You just didn't know they were there. And they knew you were there, and they were avoiding you. That's why now with drones and stuff, when they take pictures over beaches, you see people out there swimming all the time, and there's sharks just swimming around everywhere. People just don't know, and the sharks are not there to hurt the people. The only time there's injuries is if they're chasing some fish and a human gets in the way, or if a human is looking surprisingly like exactly what that shark wants, and then there might be an accidental bite. But they don't eat you. They bite and go, oh, wait, that's not a seal, and they spit you out. But what's the problem? If they catch sharks are big, so if they catch a major artery, if they could really hurt you before you get back to shore, and that's what causes those 10 are mostly, almost entirely, due to bleeding, not from actually being eaten like in Jaws. That is completely made up, okay? So, respect sharks. Don't swim in cloudy water, because that confuses them too. If you're out swimming in the ocean and a whole bunch of fish start swimming around you, probably gently swim towards shore, right? Because what would chase little fish around? Sharks, right? Surprisingly, we've also found that sharks tend to follow dolphin pods. Even though dolphins can defend themselves against sharks, sharks don't like dolphins, they tend to follow the dolphins. So if you're out in the water and you see dolphins around, maybe just go back in the shore to be safe. You're respecting the sharks, they respect you, everyone's fine. Dogs, who we love, kill more people than sharks. And I know all of you love your dogs. I love my Kiku. But if you can love your dog with that many fatalities, you can love sharks too. Between the year 1580 and 2011, there were 471 fatal shark attacks. Humans kill 100 million sharks a year. Yep, it is. It's terrible. Estimates are between 73 and 100 million sharks a year due to fishing and finning. We're not going to talk about those things because they're too sad right today, but I'd be glad to come back someday and talk about fishing and plastics in the ocean. Speaking of, decline of sharks. Some species are down 90% across the oceans. It's incredibly sad. Hammerheads are some of my favorites, and it almost makes me cry to see this. So we've got to change it, or our oceans and our world is a blue planet. We will be screwed up forever. Plastic. Just want to touch on this. You know that we're all thinking about plastics in the ocean, right? And yes, it would be great if the USA did more to help. The only acceptable number is 0. But the 4 or 5 countries on the left side put more plastic into the ocean than the rest of the world 3 times combined. China, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Sri Lanka, and Thailand, okay? Southeast Asian area. Just letting you know, working someday with those governments to somehow curtail that will make the biggest change in marine environment possible. The nice thing about these issues, is that unlike so many other issues we deal with in our life and our global life, these are easy. There's 5 countries really that are dumping everything in the ocean. If we could deal with that, we'd be a huge, huge step ahead. Simple. Finning, once we outlaw the transportation of fins for shark soup, 50 to 70 million less sharks a year would die. That's it. The United States outlaws fishing for shark fins, but does not outlaw transporting them through our country. So sadly, a huge percentage of all those sharks that are killed are transported by mail or shipping through this country to Taiwan, which is the main consumer of them. Again, not going to get sad, just going to make you aware of it for the future. Now on to the fun stuff, okay? So this is just a sample of some of the places that I've dove and interacted with sharks around the northern hemisphere in North America. Each one of them is different in their own ways, but very interestingly, if you look at, let's say, the right side of the map, there's many, many sharks that literally move on an annual basis from the south, those south points down there in the Antilles and the Bahamas, all the way up to Newfoundland and even past towards Greenland and then circle back down. Some of my favorites, the tiger sharks, for example, take that route every year. So every summer they are making their way back down, and then in late summer, early fall, they're in the Bahamas. The boys go over towards Miami to party. The girls go to the Bahamas to hang out and have babies. Weird but true. You'll be down if you're diving in the Bahamas in the fall, in winter, you will never see a male tiger shark. Only female tiger sharks. The males, however, you will see whooping it up in Miami. So, bull sharks same way with the Quintana Roo and the coast of Mexico. The female bull sharks will move into a certain area. The male sharks go up to Cancun. The females go down to Playa. So Playa apparently is where there's better shopping and hanging out in the sun and beaches, and there's more partying going on up north with those icky gut boys in Cancun. So I don't know, but that's, strangely enough, that's what they do. But they do follow a route. They swim and swim and swim, and there are some sharks that swim so much in their lifetimes they could circle the globe 400 times in their lifetimes because they never stop swimming. I'm going to talk about two particular locations: Guadalupe Island off the coast of Mexico, and Tiger Beach off of West End in the Bahamas. Interesting, they're about the same level. Is that latitude or longitude? Latitude? On the Earth, but just on different sides of our country. Guadalupe Island is the home of some of the largest great whites on Earth. They are there because of the seals. It is a volcanic island that sticks out of the bottom of the ocean floor. Right when you get off of the shore basically of Guadalupe, it goes down to 10 to 12,000 feet deep. That is awesome for big great whites because they love lurking around in the dark below, looking up and searching for what, kids? Seals, right? That's why the story, when you see the boat and so forth, there's a story of when I was on this particular trip the year before, a tech guy from the Northwest had offered somebody on the boat $1 million to swim to shore. No one took it. Because you look too much like a seal, for sure. Because the sharks there are not worried about humans. They don't see humans. If you're in the water, they think you're a seal. So here's my daughter Gracie performing the perfect stay away from me, hands up, shark approach. I just threw that in for Grace. But this is a great example of what you do when you're diving. You get those hands up, you don't move back, you don't get scared, and just enjoy that beautiful animal checking you out and swimming by. And they will not suddenly try to bite you. They will check you out, and if you're calm and cool, they will come back and check you out over and over and over again, and even get to a point where they will let you touch them. Now, why do you keep your head on a swivel, and why do you keep your hands up? So that this doesn't happen. This is a photographer who was taking pictures of sharks and was spending too much time looking at his camera. So he's taking pictures and he's looking at his camera and he's not paying attention to sharks. So he was breaking the rules, right? You have to look them in the eye, you've got to keep your hands up, and he wasn't doing either one of those. And what did Emma decide she was going to do? See how his head tasted. Now, this didn't actually turn into anything. That photographer is fine. But she woke him up. They demand respect, and it's weird, but by looking away and not paying attention to her, Emma said, "Get your eyes back on me, buddy." And believe me, he has since. Okay, kids, welcome to Guadalupe Island, Mexico. This is a great white. I took this picture. Contrary to my daughter's wishes, I did get out of the cage in Guadalupe and swim around with these babies. I had an interesting experience after about my 5th time and got back in and stayed in the cage the rest of the time. They are magnificent animals. I've got some film. Absolute beautiful hunters and just gorgeous. One of the interesting things, kids, is when you look at the fish, when you look at a great white, if they're swimming towards you, what are they doing? Smiling. It's kind of creepy, but it's true. They look like they're smiling. They might be smiling because they're thinking, you might be a seal. These are all pictures that were taken on the trip to Guadalupe. It's about a day and a half boat ride on a 75-foot or bigger boat out to this volcanic island. You anchor there for a week. And that's most of the trips that I've taken with Discovery or Nat Geo or Animal Planet. We would go out to a location, remote location, you anchor or drift for a full week or longer. You live on the boat. We have my significant other McCassins here as well. McCassin and my daughter Lauren and Grace and I put up hammocks, and we sleep in the rigging, we sleep on the boats, and then dive during the day. And a typical dive day was up at 6 a.m., you get some food in you, you're in the water sometimes by 7 a.m., You can do as many as five dives during the day, sometimes up to an hour and 45 minutes a dive, and then sometimes even night dives. And you do that every day for as many as 5 or 6 or 7 days. So you get in a lot of dives with a lot of sharks in a short period of time, but they're there to work. People are there to take pictures and to get film, and they do because they're in the water all the time. This is beautiful Guadalupe Island, this volcanic island. It's absolutely spectacular, unless you're afraid of sharks, because there are more sharks here than anywhere else except maybe South Africa or our friends, Australia. All right, the Great Barrier Reef. So it's pretty cold there, so you have to have different kind of equipment. So I'm all zipped up and ready to get in that water. Here we are in Guadalupe. And just to prove I'm out of the cage, yes I am, and if you ever see on YouTube video or something, some guy with a black baseball cap backwards on a shark dive, it's probably me, because I'm the only guy that does it. Eli Martinez wears a cap as well, but he wears a brown and white trucker hat, so different. But if you look closely, there's always a Bucky on the back, because I always got to have the number. I always got to show the colors. These are some beautiful pictures from Guadalupe. See how that mouth sticks out? Sharks can disengage their top jaw, kids. Not like us. Mine stuck to my mouth. I can't pull it out. But sharks can disconnect their jaw, their top one, and stick it out in order to get more food when they take a bite. So that's why he looks like he's got really big gums. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Just kind of swimming through the ocean, checking things out, checking me out. And this might be the film, and here we go. So we're into some of the film. So I took this out of the cage. This is a beautiful female. She is just swimming in the beautiful ocean, definitely checking me out, wondering what the heck I'm doing. If you look closely, there's actually one below her too. Do you see that? There's actually 2 sharks in that. Okay, I'm still figuring this out. Okay, I don't know what happened there. We'll just go to this one. Yeah, but way down deep. They like to go down deep where you can barely see them. They're camouflaged because of their colors. And so the seals, when they look down, don't see them, and then they circle below. Instead of circling on top like normal, the sharks at Guadalupe have learned to circle below, out of sight of the seals, and then come shooting up at rocket speed to get their prey. And she was kind of coming up to check something out, that floaty thing there, and decided, oh, that's not food. And so she let off the gas. But she came shooting up from down below deep, and now she's just kind of cruising through thinking, what the heck was that in the water? That is all muscle. They swim constantly. Most sharks do not actually, quote unquote, sleep, although some sharks are able to stop swimming and lay on the bottom or drift and simply open and close their mouths to suck water through their gills. It's like like a lemon shark or a nurse shark. They can sit on the bottom and do that. Most sharks, though, have to keep swimming to keep water going in their mouth and over their gills, because that's how they breathe. Got another nice great white coming up here. You can see that they put some meat in the water, and definitely is looking at that, checking that out, but didn't eat it. Why? Because they're very, very cautious, not what you see on Jaws. That's a perfect example of how a great white typically acts, and most sharks usually act. They don't get that big and they don't grow that old by just trying to eat anything and everything they see. They check it out. If there are any fishermen in the room, you know, the biggest fish are the hardest ones to catch. They're like, oh, that lure doesn't look right, or sometimes they follow the lure and they're looking at it, but they won't bite it. That's what these guys do too. The biggest ones that have gotten the oldest are the most cautious ones. So they think about it very heavily before they before they attack any prey. So here I'm sitting on top of the cage, probably shouldn't be doing that, and just getting some photos of them throwing some food in the water. And I'm having a blast. I love it out there. I love being on the water, and I love being in the ocean. And there's my friend Eli Martinez. Now, some of you wonder what's it like to be in a cage. Well, it's very cool. You can lean out of the cage. You can see the sharks. You have to, keep an eye on how many are around, because sometimes there's a bunch of them around. But sometimes they run into the cage. And so this is a film of actually a great white running into the cage. And do sharks swim backwards? No. So if they run into the cage, what's their natural instinct? Kick harder. And some of you may have seen the video of them actually getting into cages. And that famous video of Guadalupe was actually this boat 1 week later, where the shark did force its way into a cage because the people didn't push it out. So when you'll see what happens. The shark gets hit, he hits the cage, he's biting onto the metal, he doesn't know what to do. Eli pushes him, just takes him by the nose and pushes him out, and he swims away. And then that's what you need to do. If you didn't do that, the shark would start to freak out, start kicking harder, and believe me, that shark is stronger than that cage. And off he goes. And if you could say thank you, he would. Thank you, Eli. They're beautiful creatures. They've got a bad reputation, but believe me, they don't see you as food. They'd really prefer not to eat you. How are we doing on time? Till when? 1:15?
No,
What time?
until about 1:05.
Oh, okay. Okay. Some really quick ones then. I thought I'd till 1:15. I'm sorry. Oh, and I forgot to put this down too. So the theme for the day. Did it go down?
Yes, there.
Yeah. Live every day like it's Shark Week, okay? So really quickly, we're going to just scroll through some of the things about tigers. These are Caribbean reef sharks. This is what it looks like behind the boat every day when you get up in the morning. These are the oceans around, filled with sharks, none of whom who want to eat you. However, when I get in the water, usually the largest tigers that know us will come up to visit. And this is Emma coming up to say hi. I jumped in the water first. I'm making sure everything's fine. And she decides to come up and say hello. Emma is a beautiful shark. She has learned to eat from our hands. Literally, Eli and others feed her. She comes and she will just get in line like an airplane landing in an airport. She'll come right up in this line over and over, and they circle, and they line up by the largest to the smallest sharks. So the ones that have the more dominant sharks, like Emma, will get in front, and then the smaller sharks in order will line up behind them, and they'll just do the circle and come by as you give them some food and get pictures and feeding and so forth. Much like dogs would line up, maybe even not as coordinated. This is a day at my office. It gets crowded down there sometimes. Those are tiger sharks, lemon sharks, and Caribbean reef sharks, and there might even be a nurse shark thrown in there. Like I said, it gets crowded. That shark is wondering why I'm not looking at him. I'm probably wondering why too when I saw the picture. And this is one of my favorite friends. Her name is Hook. This is Hook because if you look at her mouth, she's got a little thing like this, like a pirate. Rawr. When she was a baby, we took a hook out of her mouth. She was only about this long, and we popped a hook out. We do that all the time. We take hooks out of sharks, out of their jaws. But she'd already started growing, and her mouth got kind of deformed. So she grew up, and she looks like that, so you can always see a little bit of her teeth. But she's a sweetie, and she and I know each other pretty well, and so I've gotten to the point where I could even give her a kiss. There she is again. That's my girl. There she is again. And she even lets us put a camera on her. So if you're wondering what it looks like to take a picture of a shark, this is what it looks like if a shark takes a picture of you. That is a chip clip with a GoPro. Not very scientific. I'm sure Jason Barron and the other engineers in the room are like, I could do something better than that, but it worked. So she let us put the chip clip on her fin, and she filmed us. Well, running out of time, so I'm just going to quick go through, that's Jitterbug, some through pictures here really fast. For the kids, that's my family diving. Those are my girls with the tiger shark. Again. There's Gracie, sitting right over here with big old, is that Cinnamon? Who is that? Freckles? Okay. There's Gracie in the background, there's me in the foreground, like father, like daughter. It's Grace again. And probably again. Grace likes to touch sharks, as you can tell. Sometimes she gets her hands a little far out, gets Daddy a little uncomfortable. She sticks those hands out where she shouldn't, because it's always the shark you can't see that might be the problem there. She is, again, too much touching, but. And we'll end on this. If you love the ocean and you love sharks and you decide to become a scuba diver and you decide to do what you can to save them, maybe someday you'll get a shark named after you, like this one was named after Grace. This is Gracie Tiger Shark. She is a sweetie. She is beautiful. She's very recognizable because she has that left pectoral fin that's just sheared off, just right at the tip. It's like a clean cut. We don't know if it's a boat motor or a birth defect, but she's always had it. She is very gentle. She's one of the more gentle sharks that we swim with. She's beautiful. Her top fin is cut up because of mating, but she is a fantastic shark, and we're looking forward to seeing her again at Tiger Beach, and we're looking forward to all of you someday visiting her at Tiger Beach as well. Thank you very much.
If anybody has any other questions, kids, adults, whatever, Brad will be here to answer your questions. Thanks again, and we are adjourned.